What's up, everyone? We are back with a big day of MLB action here on Monday, April 15th. Our NBA picks for Sunday worked out pretty great. We went 4-1 overall. We cashed our two biggest bets of the day, which were the Boston Celtics -9.5 and the Lakers +3.5. Those both looked very, very good. We also hit on the Charlotte versus Cleveland over. Our only loss today was the Denver versus Memphis under, and we saw the Phoenix Suns +2. They won that game straight up. That one was really never in doubt. So those all worked out pretty much as well as we could reasonably hope for, and we feel good heading into the week. This is a very solid MLB slate with lots of value, so let's dive back in and find some winners. Take a second and hit that like button to show some support to the channel and all the work we're putting in every single day. If you're new, take a second and subscribe. It's 100% free and can keep you from missing out on these picks. These videos are sponsored by StumpTheSpread.com. Click the link in the description to go over there and join our free email list and check out our top confidence plays on all the major sports. Comment below with all the bets you're looking at today, and we will give you our best advice on all of them. We respond to absolutely every single comment, so let us know anything you want to say about my picks, these videos, or anything you see here. As always, our final picks will be in the pinned comment down below. Now let's get into our first game of the day, the Texas Rangers going on the road to start their series with the Detroit Tigers. The Rangers come into this game, they are fresh off of a tough series against the Houston Astros. They lost the last two games of that series after winning the first one in a crazy offensive outburst. They won that one 12-8. Then they lost 9-2 and 8-5 over an Astros team that hasn't really gotten off to the best start. We see that the Rangers here are slated to hand the ball to Michael Lorenzen. He's going to be making his first start coming off the IL, so it's going to be interesting to see what this big right-hander can do. Last season, he looked middle of the road, not amazing, but not terrible. A 9-9 record, not a disaster, and a 4.18 ERA. All those numbers coming for the Phillies, not terrible numbers. We'll see what he can do here in his first outing of the year. He's going to need to pitch relatively well here. We have seen the Rangers look pretty good offensively this season. They've gotten off to a good start. They've scored 81 runs. They're 7th in runs scored in the MLB this season overall, but their last couple of games against the Astros didn't really look amazing. I guess 5 runs isn't a nightmare performance, but only 2 runs in game 2 of that series, not really looking great. We're looking at Alderweis Garcia. He's really been the guy propping their numbers up this season. He's got 4 home runs, 15 RBIs, and he's batting .328 on the season, so just in general, he's hitting the ball pretty well. The Rangers don't have great slugging percentage numbers, but their team batting average and team on-base percentage have them in the top 4 in the MLB, so nothing really to complain about there at all. They're going to be taking on the Detroit Tigers, who managed to win 2 of their games in that 4-game series against the Twins. They won the first game and last game of that series. The last one they won 4-3. It took an 8th inning rally for them to get that win and earn the split in this series, but just in general, the Tigers have to feel pretty decent about how the season has started off. They're 9-6 overall. They haven't exactly been killing it lately. They did lose a series to the Oakland A's. That can't feel great. And only splitting a 4-game series against the Twins probably isn't exactly what you're aiming for. The thing for the Tigers this season has been excellent pitching and terrible offense. They're hoping that excellent pitching can continue in this one as they hand the ball here to Reese Olson. He's going to be making his 3rd start of the season, and it's been a tale of 2 starts for this guy. In his first outing, he dominated the Mets. He gave up only 3 hits, no runs in 5 2/3 innings, so a very, very good performance. But in his second outing, he got shelled by the Pittsburgh Pirates. He only lasted 4 1/3. He gave up 9 hits, 6 earned runs in that game. No home runs, so I guess that's a small positive, but 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, and giving up 9 hits, that's not exactly going to get it done. He knows he's got solid stuff at some point this season, but he's not really a strikeout pitcher. He's a little guy. He's only 6'1", not a massive presence out there on the mound, and he's kind of a young guy still, so we'll see how he can do here in this game. He probably feels like he has to have a lights out performance if he wants to get a win or be in line for anything good in this one, given how bad the Tigers offense has been this season. They're ranked 25th in the league with only 52 runs scored here through their first 15 games. That is not going to get the job done, guys. Their team batting average is also 25th in the league. They're batting only .215 as a squad. Not great. Their slugging percentage is even worse than that. They're just not looking good. When your leading hitter is batting .236 on the season, not a great look. This team really struggles to hit the ball. They're going to be going up against a guy making his first start of the season, though, so it's going to be interesting to see what they can do in this situation. Looking at the numbers in this game, we see the Rangers are -116, so the odds makers have a little bit of faith here in Lorenzen, but the Detroit Tigers are only -102, so it's a pretty even game. The over-under is set at 9. I don't really love the over-under here, even though we do see that neither one of these teams is really hitting the cover off the ball at this exact moment. Texas is -1.5. You take them -1.5, you can get them at +142. I don't think we'll really be doing that, guys. This is a tough game here to start the slate. Give me a small taste here of the Rangers, -116. I think we'll see pretty decent stuff from Lorenzen. I don't know if he'll be dominant in this game, but we're not too worried about the Tigers' bats. They have been pretty weak this season. Next up, we got the Minnesota Twins going on the road to take on the Baltimore Orioles. The Twins come into this game fresh off of a loss to the Tigers. They split that series 2-2. They probably don't feel terrible about that. They found some offense in that series. They did have an 11-run game. They not really looked that good on offense this season overall, though, and I don't think we really saw enough in that series against the Tigers to change our mind about this team looking pretty weak offensively. They're going to be handing the ball in this game to Louis Varland. He's going to be making his third start of the season. He's been a little bit middle of the road. He's had some struggles here in the early goings. Taking on the Milwaukee Brewers in his first start of the year, he went 4 innings, gave up 6 hits, 3 earned runs, a home run. He did have 4 strikeouts and 2 walks in that game, but nothing great, nothing you really want to write home about. Not a fantastic outing against the Brewers. He did last 5 innings in his next start against the Dodgers, a amazing hitting team, don't get me wrong, but giving up 6 earned runs on 7 hits through 5 innings, not going to get the job done. He's not looked great so far this season. He's sporting an ERA of 9. He's 0-2 this year, so the guy needs to turn around a little bit. He's another short pitcher. He's a short right-hander, only 6'1", not an old guy, so we'll see. Maybe he can turn things around, but right now, out of the gate, things aren't looking great, and things aren't really looking great for the Minnesota Twins. They're only 6-8 overall, and their offense has been sputtering. They're a league worst in terms of team batting average. They're very, very close to the bottom also in runs scored, in slugging percentage. They're just not getting runs across the plate. They're not looking great. They did have that 11-run outburst, but not a lot of offense to look at for this team, and they're going to need some offense going up against the Baltimore Orioles, who come into this game fresh off a 2-run win in their last game of their 3-game series against the Milwaukee Brewers. They were just trying to salvage a single win in that one, so they didn't look great. They had definitely a letdown series after sweeping the Boston Red Sox. And a little bit of positive news, we did see Jackson Holliday single for his first MLB hit, so that had to feel good for the young guy. I think we're going to see an awful lot more hits come out of him, but right now we're looking at who the Orioles are handing the ball to. We're going to see Cole Irvin on the bump in this one. He's making his 3rd start of the season, and things have been a little bit rocky here out of the gate. Against the Royals, he went 5 innings, gave up 4 earned runs. Against the Red Sox, he went 5 innings and gave up 5 earned runs. Not a fantastic performance. He's 0-1 on the season so far. He's sporting an ERA of 8.10, so once again, not fantastic numbers. He has to be a little bit nervous coming into the start. This big left-hander, though, he's got decent stuff. He should be in for a little bit of a better outing, you would hope, at least at some point. He's got to find it here a little bit. He's getting touched up pretty hard and not really against elite offensive teams. The Orioles bats have definitely cooled off here a little bit. They've really cooled off against the Milwaukee Brewers, although they did score 6 runs in their last game, so I guess that's fine, but not in general one of their best offensive series, not like what we were seeing them do against the Boston Red Sox. Right now we see them around 11th in the MLB in terms of runs scored, but below average in team batting average, so we could expect that number to maybe even fall a little bit, although when they're making contact, they're hitting it pretty hard. Their slugging center percentage has them in the top 10 in the league, so we'll see what we actually get out of that. Looking at the numbers for this game, we see that the Orioles are the kind of big favorites at -148. The Twins are +126 in this game. It's going to be interesting to see which one of these pitchers can actually bounce back from their weak early start. I think we're going to lean slightly towards the over in this game, as neither pitcher has really had a good time. The problem is neither one of these teams is hitting the ball great, so maybe give me a slight lean of the over in this game with both teams slated to bounce back a little bit offensively. And if you wanted to go ahead and take the Baltimore Orioles -148, I think that's okay with me. I've got some faith here in Cole Irvin to bounce back and have a decent outing. Moving right along here, we've got the Colorado Rockies going on the road to take on the Philadelphia Phillies. Colorado comes into this game fresh off of a series loss to the Toronto Blue Jays. They lost the last 2 games of that series, getting outscored 10-3. They were shut out in their last game of the series, so not looking great. Things are looking pretty rough here for the Rockies. They're going to be hoping they can turn things around by handing the ball to Cal Quantrill, but he's not really had the best start to his year overall. This is going to be his 4th start of the season. He has yet to register any result except for 2 losses. His ERA is 7.20, and things are just not looking good. His last time out against the Phillies was probably his best outing of the year. He gave up 2 home runs in that game. It was at Coors Field. This one will be on the road, so that has to feel a little bit better for him. He did have 6 strikeouts in that game, and he made it 6 innings deep into that one. We did not see the Rockies get the win in that game. They lost 3-2, but he kept things well in check. Maybe he's rounding into form here, and he's definitely going to need to. The Rockies have not been great hitting the ball. That's kind of their whole deal. Like, if you're going to be playing a lot of games at Coors Field, you're going to want to be able to hit that ball out of Coors Field, and their team slugging percentage is pretty good, but in terms of runs scored, they're only 15th in the league with 69 runs over their first 16 games. Not exactly tearing it up. Ryan McMahon's off to a solid start, but other than that, there's not a ton of bright spots to find for this offense. Colorado might be in for a little bit of a tough season here, and it's not getting way easier. They're going up against the Philadelphia Phillies. Phillies come into this game, they just split a 4-game series with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and in game 4 of that series, they took the loss 9-2, so that can't have let a great taste in their mouth. They're handing the ball here to Aaron Nola. He comes into this game, he's going to be making his 4th start, coming off of a relatively decent performance against the St. Louis Cardinals, where he only gave up 2 earned runs, 2 home runs, unfortunately, but in 6 innings against the Cardinals, only giving up 3 total hits. That's not too bad. He hasn't had a terrible start to his season. Actually, his last 2 starts have been very, very good after getting just absolutely shelled by the Atlanta Braves out of the gate. The guy's 2 2-1 on the season with a 4.5 ERA that is definitely falling right now, so they have to feel pretty good about that, although he does have to feel like he has to pitch really, really well to be in line to get wins for this Phillies team that's not hitting the ball here this season. Things just are not getting off to a great start. Aside from Brandon Marsh, there are not a lot of positives to find on this roster in terms of just offensive production. They're 22nd in the league in runs scored, 24th in the league in team slugging percentage. Just not a lot of positives to find here for this offense. Looking at their numbers overall, we see the Phillies are a massive -265 favorite in this game. Not looking great, not looking like a number we're super interested in, but you could definitely give me a taste here of the Phillies -1.5. I think they're going to find a way to get some runs in this game, enough against the Colorado Rockies that they could have a significant lead. And if you take a -1.5 here, you can get them at -126, so that's not too bad. I think we can live with that. The over-under in this game is not something we're super interested in. I don't really trust either offense enough to get over 8.5 runs, and I don't really trust one of these pitchers enough to keep them under 8.5. So definitely give me a small taste here of the Phillies -1.5, but I'll be a little bit surprised if I see this one in the pinned comment later as one of our core plays. Moving right along here, we've got the San Francisco Giants going on the road to take on the Miami Marlins. The Giants come into this game fresh off of a series loss to the Tampa Bay Rays, and they lost Game 3 of that series 9-4. San Francisco has not gotten off to the start they imagined at all this season. They're hoping they can kind of right the ship here, handing the ball to Kyle Harrison. He's going to be making his 4th start of the season. His last 2 starts have not looked great. He really kind of peaked so far with his first start of the season, giving up only 2 earned runs over 6 innings against the Padres. But against Washington, his last time out, he did last 6 innings in that game and had 8 strikeouts, so not a terrible start by any stretch of the imagination, but 3 earned runs and 5 hits might not be exactly what he was looking for, and he's given up at least 1 home run in each of his starts this season, so that's all a little bit of a tough look. His numbers for the season, not great, not terrible, 1-1 with a 4.76 ERA. He does have 17 strikeouts here through 3 starts, so not terrible. This kind of short left-hander, he can feel decent about how his season has started and can be hoping to build right now. However, the Giants offense has looked very, very middle of the road. They did get off to kind of a hot start, maybe a little bit, except for that series sweep against the Dodgers, so maybe not exactly a hot start. They've been middle of the road offensively all season long. They don't really have any breakout offensive stars so far this season, unless you want to call Michael Conforto their breakout. He's batting .298 with 13 RBIs and 4 home runs, so that's not a terrible start to his season at all, but when that's your breakout guy here in the early goings, you can tell your offense isn't exactly firing on all cylinders. The Miami Marlins are definitely not a team that's firing on all cylinders. They come into this game 3-13 overall. They just lost 2 out of 3 against the Atlanta Braves, which I guess getting 1 win against the Braves here is kind of a pretty big win for the Marlins, who are on track to have a terrible, terrible season. They're handing the ball here to AJ Puck. He's going to be making his 4th start of the season. His last time out, he actually looked pretty decent against the Yankees, although he did only last 4 2/3 innings, so not amazing, and he had 5 walks. I guess the decent part of that one is that he only gave up 2 runs over the course of that whole deal, and he gave up a home run, so not exactly looking like a monster so far. He's 0-3 on the season. He's sporting an ERA of 5.91, so not really the season I'm sure that he had in mind. But the Miami Marlins in general, they are not scoring a lot of runs. They're having a pretty tough time. They're a league worst in terms of slugging percentage. They've only scored 53 runs in total this season. All very disappointing numbers, but not too big of a shock coming here from the Miami Marlins. We're looking at the Giants. They're -220 in this game, and while the Giants aren't an amazing team against the run line, they're only 7-9 against the run line this season. The Marlins are a MLB worst 4-12 against the run line, and if we take San Francisco -1.5 in this game, we can get them at +138. I think that's going to be our lean in this one, guys. Give us San Francisco -1.5 to get +138. I definitely think we could see this being one of our core plays, but don't forget to check that pinned comment. Moving right along here, we've got the Los Angeles Angels going on the road to take on the Tampa Bay Rays. The Angels come into this game fresh off of losing 2 out of 3 to the Boston Red Sox. They didn't look very good here in the last 2 games of the series. I guess they did keep things close in Game 3, but Game 1 was where they really looked good. They won 7-0 in that one, and the Angels at 7-8 on the season are off to, I guess, a middle-of-the-road start, which you would kind of expect here for such a middle-of-the-road team. The Angels are going to be handing the ball here to Patrick Sandoval. He comes into this game. He'll be making his 4th start of the season, and he's coming off what might have arguably been his worst start of the year so far, going only 5 innings, giving up 6 hits and 4 earned runs against the Tampa Bay Rays. He did have 6 strikeouts in that game, and he's shown some decent stuff this season, but when your best start of the year has come against the Miami Marlins, I have to look at your stats kind of with a grain of salt. The guy's only 1-2 on the season with a 6.57 ERA, so not exactly killing it right now, and neither is the Angels offense. Obviously, we've seen Mike Trout get off to a great start. He's got 6 home runs here in the early goings. He's batting .281. The guy's a monster. I really wish he could get out of such a crappy situation in Los Angeles, but I guess he wants to be an Angel for life or something because he just keeps on re-upping there. Looking at this offense as a whole, not looking so hot. They're only 19th in the MLB in terms of runs scored. Their team slugging percentage isn't much better. I think this is going to be another middle of the road season for the Angels. They're going to need to play a little bit better here, taking on the Tampa Bay Rays, who are surging a bit. They've won 4 of their last 5 games overall. They just won 2 out of 3 in their series against the Giants. Their last game of that series, they won 9-4, so a very solid outing. And they're going to be handing the ball in this one to Zach Eflin. Eflin's been alternating bad and good starts all season long. His first start of the season against Toronto, terrible. His second start of the season against the Rangers, great. His third start of the season against the Angels, he got roughed up. And that's a pretty big concern, obviously, since he's going against the Angels again. Back on April 8th, he lasted 5 innings. He gave up 9 hits and 5 earned runs over that span. He did have 5 strikeouts, but that's not exactly something we're going to freak out about. Not a fantastic look from him in this one, and he just hasn't been great overall this season. He's 1-2 with a 6.35 ERA, so not exactly looking amazing. The Rays' offense in general has not looked amazing either. They're only 21st in the MLB in terms of runs scored, with 59 runs over the course of the season. While their bats have seemed to come alive here a little bit, they did score 9 runs in that last game, but their first win of this series, they only scored 2 runs, and they got blown out 11-2 in their second game of that series. So not exactly something we're going to freak out about. I don't love the Tampa Bay Rays right here, and looking at the numbers for this game, we see the Angels, you can get them at plus 136 in this game. How much faith do we really have in Patrick Sandoval, though? Do we want to look at the over-under in this game? We can get the over-under at 8 right now, so you might want to take a slight taste of the over. There's no major trends in this one. I don't have a huge lean, as I don't really like where either one of these starters are at, so if you really want to bet this game, you could take a small taste of over 8 if you can still find that number. Moving right along here, we're looking at the New York Yankees going on the road to take on the Toronto Blue Jays. The Yankees won 2 out of 3 against Cleveland. That was supposed to be a 4-game series, but one of those games got postponed, so we have to think the Yankees feel pretty good about that and pretty good about their start to the season. They're 12-4 this year. I'm sure it doesn't feel good to get walked off on in the 10th inning, like what happened to them in their last game, but just in general, things are off to a pretty hot start. They're going to be handing the ball in this game to Lewis Gill. He's going to be making his 3rd start of the season, and things have looked pretty decent for him in pretty limited work. The deepest he's gone into either one of those games was 4 2/3 innings. He's only given up a total of 3 runs this season. He's got an ERA of exactly 3. He hasn't registered in a result this season due in large part to not going deep into games, but this guy, he's throwing a lot of pitches and he's putting some strikeouts up along with some walks. He gave up 4 walks to the Toronto Blue Jays in his last time out, but he had 8 strikeouts in that game. So just in general, we can feel pretty good about how he's looked. Maybe not amazing, but pretty good. The Yankees offense in general seems to be showing some signs of life. They did score 8 runs against Cleveland in game 2 of this series and 7 in game 3. They're only 13th in the league overall in terms of runs scored, so not exactly terrible, but I do expect their slugging percentage numbers to come up a little bit. Their team on base percentage is very, very good, still over 350, so they have to feel good about that. It'll be interesting to see here how they do going up against Chris Bassett. He comes into this game, he's going to be making his 4th start of the season, and he's coming off his best start of the year by far. He went 6 2/3 innings against the Seattle Mariners. He gave up only 1 run in that game. It was a home run. He had 8 strikeouts over those 6 2/3 innings. He's looking decent. His numbers for the season haven't been amazing. He's 1-2 overall with a 5.06 ERA. He did get roughed up a bit by the Houston Astros. There's no getting around that. 9 hits in 4 innings, not a great look. And he did get roughed up in his first start against the Tampa Bay Rays. He gave up 4 earned runs over 5 innings in that one. So we kind of hope that he's turned a page here and can be in for a solid performance. He's a veteran pitcher. He's a big, big right-hander. So we expect to see something decent from him, but he's taking on a tough opponent in the Yankees. Looking at the Toronto offense over the course of the season, it's gotten off to a bit of a mediocre start. They're in the bottom third of the league in most of the major categories. They have won back-to-back series, so they should feel pretty good about that, but when your series were against the Mariners and the Colorado Rockies, it's not exactly a huge feat to be winning those games. Their team slugging percentage is very low. Their team on-base percentage is a little bit better, but still not great. Just in general, we're not super happy with what we're seeing from the Toronto Blue Jays right now, and looking at the numbers for this game, we see that the Yankees are only minus 105, and that's definitely the way we're going to be leaning in this one. I think we like the Yankees a decent amount here with Lewis Gill on the mound. I think he'll find a way to at least get through 4 or 5 innings. You would hope that he could last a little bit longer than that. The Blue Jays bats have not looked amazing. They are at home in this game, so I guess that's a slight concern, but I think we see the Yankees come out on top in this game. And if you want to look at the over-under in this game, we see both of these are pretty good under teams, and the over-under is sitting at 9, so you could definitely take a look at the under in this game, but just in general, I think I like the Yankees quite a bit more than that. Moving right along here, guys, we've got the Pittsburgh Pirates going on the road to take on the New York Mets. Pittsburgh comes into this game fresh off of splitting a series with the Philadelphia Phillies. We saw McCutchen get his 300th career home run, so that was pretty cool, and the Pirates won 9-2 there in Game 4 of that series. Pittsburgh is going to be handing the ball here to Martin Perez. He comes into this game, he'll be making his 4th start, and the guy has looked great here in the early goings. Through his first 3 starts, he's 1-0 with a 1.89 ERA. His last time out, he absolutely dominated the Tigers. He went 8 innings in that game, gave up 6 hits over those 8 innings, but only a single earned run while striking out 7. That will definitely work. He's just looked very, very good this season in general. He hasn't faced the toughest opponents, but there's a definite argument to be made that the New York Mets are not one of the toughest opponents right now either. Pittsburgh in general, they've been hitting the ball pretty decent here out of the gate. They've put up 78 runs, which is good for 10th in the MLB. They're 9th in the league in team batting average. Their slugging percentage isn't great, but their on-base percentage is elite. We see Connor Joe has been leading the way for them right now. He's batting nearly 300 with an on-base percentage of nearly 400, so that'll definitely work. They haven't exactly had anybody just hitting a ton of home runs, but Edward Olivares is leading the team with 3 home runs, and he's batting over 300, so you can't really complain about that. The Pirates are hoping they can keep this hot start going. They're 11-5 on the season, and they're taking on the Mets, who have not gotten off to a hot start. Just got a much-needed series win over the Royals. They won Game 3 of that series 2-1, so not exactly a lot of offense coming out of that one. They're going to be handing the ball here to Adrian Hauser. He comes into this game making his 3rd start of the season. First start of the year against the Tigers, very solid. Second start of the year against the Braves, not so much. In 5 innings pitched, he gave up 5 earned runs and 8 hits. He only had 1 strikeout in that game and 2 walks. On the season, he's 0-1 with a 5.4 ERA and only 4 strikeouts. Not exactly the kind of numbers you're going to want to write home about, and he's going to need to pitch really, really well for the Mets to get a win. Their offense in general hasn't looked that great. Their team slugging percentage, kind of middle of the road. Just in general, this looks like a very middle of the road offensive team that's still trying to figure things out. They did have a 16-run outburst against the Atlanta Braves, so that had to feel pretty good. That's really helping boost their numbers a little bit, but there's still a lot of work to be done. Looking at the numbers for this game, we see we can get the Pirates plus 106 just to win this game straight up. That looks pretty appealing. Also kind of appealing is Pittsburgh minus 1.5. We see that the Pirates are 12-4 against the run line, an MLB best number this season, so we'll definitely be considering the Pirates minus 1.5. You take that, you can get them at plus 162, guys. That seems pretty crazy. I think we're going to be on that. It just seems like too good of a price to me, so watch out in that pinned comment. I think there's a very good chance you're going to see either Pittsburgh just to win this game straight up or Pittsburgh minus 1.5. Looking at our next game for this one, we've got the Kansas City Royals going on the road to take on the Chicago White Sox. Kansas City comes into this game. They're 10-6 on the season overall, but they can't be too happy with how that series against the Mets went. Losing 2-1 in Game 3 of the series cannot have felt great. And even more concerningly, they saw Salvador Perez go down injured in a plate collision with Marte. It seems like this is a groin/hip injury, so I do expect him to probably miss at least this next game. Seems pretty tough. We don't have a ton of information on that one, but he's been off to a very hot start hitting the ball, and we know he's one of the best defensive catchers in the game. The Royals are going to be handing the ball here to Seth Lugo. He comes into this one. He'll be making his 4th start of the season, and the guy has been lights out so far. He dominated the Twins, the Chicago White Sox, and then more impressively, he held the Houston Astros to only 2 runs in 6 innings. He did give up 7 hits in that start, so not exactly a complete domination level start, but he looked very good in that game. He's 2-0 through his first 3 starts. He's got 9 strikeouts and an ERA of only 1.45, so the Royals definitely have to feel good about handing him the ball. The Chicago White Sox are looking like one of the worst teams in the majors so far this season. They're only 2-13 on the year. They've lost 4 in a row and come into this game fresh off getting swept by the Cincinnati Reds. The White Sox are handing the ball here to Eric Feedy. He's been part of their struggles. He has had 1, maybe 1.5, we'll give him credit for, good starts, but his last time out against Cleveland, he got pretty much shelled. He gave up 3 home runs in that start, 5 runs over 5 innings. Not exactly going to get the job done, especially when you're looking at a Chicago White Sox team that is absolutely bottom of the barrel in terms of offensive production. They're 30th in the league with only 30 runs scored this season. They're just not having a good time at all. This isn't a team that's really put together to be winning games right now, and they are surely not doing that. Their team batting average is under 200. Not any positives really to be finding here for the White Sox. They have to be hoping they can get something a little bit more positive going this season, but they are right down there this year around the level of teams like the Miami Marlins. Looking at the numbers for this game, we see that the Kansas City Royals are still big favorites. They're minus 175 in this game. That is a pretty big number. What we're actually focused more on in this game is the over-under. You can get it at either 9 or 8.5 still, and I recommend you get it at that 9 because we're going to be looking at the under. We can see the Royals' best hitter is probably going to be out for this game. I don't know that for sure, but that looked like a pretty nasty collision. He did not pop up from that. I think he's going to get at least a couple days off here, so definitely give me the under in this game. We see Kansas City is 9-6-1 to the under this season, and the White Sox with their absolutely zero offensive approach. They are 8-5-1 to the under. Neither team is putting a terrible pitcher out there on the mound, so I think the under in this game is fantastic value. Moving right along, we're looking at the Chicago Cubs going on the road to take on the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Cubs are currently still playing right now against the Seattle Mariners. They're up 3-2 in the top of the 8th, so they've got a decent chance to come away with the win in that game. The Cubs have gotten off to a decent but not elite start to their season. They're 8-6 or possibly 9-6 overall, and this team definitely has aspirations to be a pretty solid one overall this season. They want to compete in the NL Central. They hope they can do that. In this game, they're going to be handing the ball here to Ben Brown. He made his first 2 outings coming out of the bullpen. He looked terrible in his first time out against the Texas Rangers, getting absolutely destroyed, but against the Rockies, he went 4 innings, gave up only 1 run, and then in his lone start of the year, he was very, very good. Pitching at San Diego, he held the Padres to only 3 hits over 4 2/3 innings and had 5 strikeouts, so they can feel pretty decent about putting him on the mound, although he's not necessarily one of their regularly scheduled starters. The Cubs, in general, their offense has looked pretty decent this season. It's trending a little bit in the wrong direction right now. I mean, they're only going to have scored 4 or something like that runs in this game. They only scored 2 runs against the Mariners in game 1 of this series, and they're only going to have scored 2 runs against the Padres in the game before that. So things are cooling off a little bit for the Cubs' hot bats, but still, they've scored 79 runs this season. That's pretty reasonable. They're middle of the pack in team batting average, but their team slugging percentage is a little bit better than average, so I don't think they have to feel too terrible about that, and they can feel relatively decent going up against the Arizona Diamondbacks, who haven't exactly been a dynamo this season, although they are looking very good in this game against the St. Louis Cardinals. Right now, they're in the bottom of the 7th. They're up 5-0 in that game, so they probably feel pretty good about that, and they probably feel relatively decent handing the ball to Merrill Kelly. He's had a very good start to the year. He's sporting an ERA of only 2.29. He's 2-0 to start the year. His last time out, he held the Rockies to only 2 earned runs over 6 innings. He had 4 strikeouts and 3 walks. His first out of the year against the Rockies was absolutely dominant. He had 8 strikeouts in that one, so he's hoping that he can recreate a little bit of that success here going up against the Cubs. The Diamondbacks in general have looked pretty good offensively, and by pretty good, I mean great. This team is around 4th or 5th in the MLB in terms of runs scored. They scored 84 runs this season. Their team batting average is well over 260. Their team slugging percentage has them comfortably in the top 10. They are a very good offensive team right now, and they're in the midst of another very good game in terms of putting up runs. Looking at the numbers for this game, we see the Diamondbacks are pretty heavily favored, and that makes sense to me given the fact they're starting an established starter against a guy who's kind of coming out of the bullpen, and the fact they've been hitting the ball so well recently. Arizona minus 142. I don't hate that. I think that's a relatively decent number. We would kind of want to take a taste of the over, as both of these teams slightly angle towards the over, but with an over-under of 9. I don't know about that one. This probably isn't going to be one of my key plays, guys. We don't really know what to expect to see from the Cubs in this one, and the Diamondbacks minus 142. That seems like a little bit steep of a price, but we may end up taking a little taste of that, so keep your eye on that pinned comment, and you'll know if this ends up being one of our core plays. Moving right along, guys, we're looking at the Cincinnati Reds going on the road to take on the Seattle Mariners. Cincinnati comes into this game fresh off of a series sweep against the White Sox. The Reds are 9-6 to start their year, so they have to feel pretty okay about that, and they're handing the ball here to Frankie Montas. He has gotten off to a kind of interesting start. His first 2 games of the season, he looked absolutely dominant against the Washington Nationals and the Philadelphia Phillies. He gave up only 1 run over 11 2/3 innings in those 2 starts, but then he had a rocky one. He got absolutely shelled by the Milwaukee Brewers. Probably not exactly what the Reds wanted to see, him getting shelled against an NL Central opponent. He gave up 6 hits, 3 earned runs in that one, 5 runs total in 5 innings of work. That's not going to work. But just in general, this right-hander has looked pretty good to start the season. He's 2-1 overall with a 2.16 ERA, so they can't feel too bad about handing him the ball. They're playing on the road in this one, so their offensive numbers and everyone's offensive numbers take a little bit of a hit when you're not playing inside the confines of the great American ballpark. But just in general, they've scored 79 runs this season. Their team's slugging percentage is very, very good, and they're just in general hitting the ball pretty well. We see Spencer Steer off to a fantastic start. He's batting .346. Elly De La Cruz has been one of the most exciting players in baseball this season, so this offense and this team in general has to feel very good about where they're at. They're going to be taking on a struggling Seattle Mariners team. They haven't gotten out of the gates very well. It looks like they're in line to possibly lose against the Cubs. They're only down by 1 run, but they're in the middle of the 8th right now, so we'll see how that one goes. The Mariners at 6-9 on the season, handing the ball here to George Kirby. This big right-hander comes into this game. He'll be making his 4th start of the season, and his last 2 have been very, very bad. He got absolutely blown out of the water by the Cleveland Guardians, then followed that one up by getting shelled by the Toronto Blue Jays. He gave up 5 earned runs and 8 earned runs over those last 2 starts, respectively. This guy is not having a very good time. He's 1-2 on the season. He's sporting an ERA of 8.16. Those are not the kind of numbers that the Mariners were hoping to see this season, and not the kind of numbers you hope to see from really any starting pitcher. He has eaten up some innings, I guess, but that's really the only positive you can find for this guy right now. And the Mariners, they need a lot more than that if they're going to be winning games. They are one of the worst offensive teams in the MLB through the early goings. They've scored only 47 runs over their first 15 games. That is devastatingly low. Team batting average is around 200. Team slugging percentage has them 29th in the MLB, like just not looking good hitting the ball at all. And we're looking at the numbers in this one. It's a little bit surprising. We see the Reds are actually the underdog in this game, which is pretty confusing to me. I mean, Frankie Montas has had a decent start to his season, and the Mariners are just not looking good right now. Guys, unless you know something that I don't, we're definitely going to be jumping here on the Cincinnati Reds plus 134. I think this has a great chance to be one of our core plays. Cincinnati is 7-7 against the run line this season. Seattle is 5-10 against the run line, so pretty terrible, but we're not really too interested in Cincinnati against the run line in this game. Just give me the Reds plus 134 to win this game. I think that's great odds, a great price, looks like to us. Moving right along here into our last game of the day, we've got the St. Louis Cardinals going on the road to take on the Oakland A's. The Cardinals come into this game, they're fresh off of what looks like it's very likely to be a loss against the Arizona Diamondbacks. It's the end of the 7th inning and they're down 5-0, so another very weak performance from the Cardinals offense. They have to feel good about the fact, though, they're going to be handing the ball to Sonny Gray in this one. He'll be making his 2nd start of the year, and he was very, very solid in his first start coming off the IL. He gave up 5 hits and 0 runs against the Philadelphia Phillies while also posting 5 strikeouts. So the Cardinals are definitely going to be hoping that he can stem the tide here of what's been a very, very rocky start here to their season and kind of to their bullpen in general, although their hitting hasn't been very great either. They're 20th in the league in terms of runs scored, and they're basically right there just riding the line of the bottom third of the league in terms of most of their offensive numbers. They just don't seem to be a team with a ton of pop here. We haven't seen Goldsmiths get off to a very good start. Mason Wynn is batting around 350 on the season, so maybe he can get a few more plate appearances and that can help things out. We just haven't seen the Cardinals veterans get off to a good start here to their hitting this season, so that's a pretty big concern, but maybe less concerning, I guess, is the fact they're going up against the Oakland A's, who come into this game. They're only 6-9 on the season overall. They're in a dogfight right now with the Nationals. They're up 7-6 here in the bottom of the 7th, so maybe they can find a way to win this game and get their 7th win of the season. But in general, things are looking pretty weird for the A's this season with all that drama around the team moving or being sold, or what is all going to go on with that. It seems very, very clear, though, that their fans are very upset, and they have every single right to be. The A's are going to be handing the ball in this one to Ross Stripling. He comes into this game fresh off of getting just absolutely destroyed by the Texas Rangers. He gave up 11 hits over 6 innings, 6 earned runs in that one. Not the kind of outing that you dream about. It was just kind of weird to see he was coming into that one off of a very good outing over the Boston Red Sox. The poor guy is 0-3 this season overall with a 5.5 ERA. He hasn't been that bad, but he has not been great. There's no way around that. And you have to be pitching extremely well to be getting positive results for the Oakland A's, as they are one of the worst offensive teams in baseball. This team is just not hitting the ball well. They're not seeing the ball well. Nothing good is happening right now. Their team batting average is exactly 200. That's pretty much a nightmare. Looking at the numbers for this game, the over-under is definitely very, very tempting. We see both of these are under teams. We see the over-under in this game is set at 7.5 or 8, so if you can find 8s out there, I would definitely go ahead and jump on that, guys. The Cardinals are 8-5-2 to the under. The A's are 8-6-1 to the under. We definitely expect a very solid outing from Sonny Gray, and we can definitely see Ross Stripling going up against a struggling Cardinals offense having a good day, so if you can find that 8 out there, definitely give me under 8. That's all the games we have for today, guys. Hit that like button for good luck on all your bets, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let me know in the comments any questions you have on today's slate. Thanks for watching. You can click the link in the description to check out stumpthespread.com, and we'll see you guys tomorrow for more sports betting action.